There we go. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being there. This is Rafa once again coming to you with Mystic Times. Today, I have the great honor and the great pleasure of having back my friend Matt Schmitz from Altrusian Grace. Welcome, Matt. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Rafa. It's been too long, and it's great to talk with you again, my good friend.
Yeah. For me too. Very, very excited to have you back. You were on the show at the very beginning, and we had some interesting conversations about the mystic journey, learning a little bit more about the shadow and the dark side of this amazing and weird journey we are on as incarnate humans.
Yeah.
And I think there's, what's the phrase, a lot of water under the bridge since we last spoke. Lots of things have happened in the world in particular, and of course also in our own personal lives. We were just speaking before we started recording about audio and about recording, and you've taken your channel. For me, it's a like, I really respect what you've done, with your YouTube channel and the recordings that you do. Of course, because of the material that you are sharing, which is invaluable, or I think that's a word, but also because of this kind of dragon, that is the growing a YouTube channel. It's like this mythical beast of going from 0 to, I don't know how many, but you have several thousand subscribers and many thousands of views in your videos as well. You've done an incredible job in that sense, because that's one of those things that for me is like, wow, how does one do this? So I'm very happy for you. I'm very proud of the work that you've done, and it's definitely got something to do with, like we were speaking right now, about the quality of the work that you're sharing. So tell us a little bit about that and say hello.
Hey, so it's been an uphill journey growing the YouTube channel for sure. Some people get it kind of luck out, and they rise to the top right away, and it doesn't take too long to get those numbers in. But I think I've been going since 2016 or 2017. So it's been a number of years now already, and it primarily was like, it was a hobby, but it was also a passion of mine. I started off doing like guided meditations and wanting to create ambient music and that kind of genre of things. There's a million other channels that kind of do that, and I was kind of inspired myself to do that as well. And then I wanted to spread out a little more, which I guess calling my channel Altrusian Grace Media leaves it open for me to, it's kind of like an umbrella that I can do all the different things I like to do under that one banner, because I never like to kind of pigeonhole myself and get locked into just doing one thing. I guess I'm kind of like, ADD in that sense. Like, I'm a little bit chaotic, where I like to jump to like, many different projects. And like right now I have like, I'd say probably 5 or 6 songs like that I'm in the middle of, like, and then I'm also working on artwork, and then I'm also working on audiobooks, like all at the same time. So I jump from one to the next and like back and forth between them. But my channel actually started taking off from a music piece that I did, and that was The King in Yellow. That was back at the end of 2017, I think, which was for a really long time a video that like had gotten the most plays, and that was me really experimenting and getting into the darker ambient soundscape stuff that was inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, which kind of that spawned that musical project called Cyclopean. And since that came out, I think I've done close to 20 Cyclopean albums, just for that project alone. So I'm constantly working and trying to shake hands with the shadow, that creative side, and whatever's on that other side. I always say that you have to constantly like reach your hand out, even if you don't get that unconscious handshake back. You keep doing it, because it's just a matter of time that shadow or in that imaginative realm will shake your hand back, and then you get that reconciliation, and then that's when the work happens. That's when the artistic endeavors come to fruition. And so yeah, I mean, with the channel, like I started doing all that musical stuff, and then I wanted to explore a little bit of the other subjects that I was interested in, and trying to figure out how I can bring that to my channel in a palatable form. And so it just ended up being like narrating some audio book type, some texts, like the Nag Hammadi stuff, and some other things. And it kind of like evolved from there. And it was something that I had wanted to do for probably like half my life, was to do voiceover work, and had tried several times to like kind of break into the business, I guess you would say. And it was like I was fed up with chasing gigs and trying to find work. You might find something that might pay you $20 here and there, but it was nothing to form a career on, and definitely nothing to live off of. So it was kind of like I started creating my own work. And then right around when the pandemic started hitting, I lost my job. Luckily, I had was building up the channel enough, and it was at that point I didn't want to go back into the workforce. I was kind of fed up with it, and so it was almost by necessity that I had to put that time and energy and that willpower and that and try to manifest my channel into something that was going to sustain me, something that I love doing, and that was going to support me in that way. So that's where all my energy started going as soon as I lost my job. And it's just been taking off ever since. And I'm extremely grateful for everybody that's been supporting me and subscribing and joining me on the channel. It's just been really incredible, all the amounts of feedback and support. And I'm just extremely grateful for all that. And now I'm over 70,000 subscribers. I feel it's been hard won, and I fought for every single one of them. And I'm like I said, I'm very grateful and thankful that I'm at the point where I'm at right now, and I can in my spare time now, and not in my spare time, I guess, now that it's at my actual work, I get to do all the things that I love doing, which was creating music and art and reading and narrating and exploring the subjects that I personally am into. So
yeah, it's kind of, it feels kind of like you've cracked the system, you've cracked the matrix code and found your own stream to go on. And especially, when I think about your channel, the word that comes to me is evolution. You've grown, and definitely, like you were explaining a little bit of how you started doing those meditations. And I remember what first caught my attention was you were doing some satsangs, where you were just sharing your views on whatever, on the spiritual journey, etc. And slowly you started moving towards doing what you're doing now, more consistently, doing these audiobooks, these readings, and you found it's like it's very unique to find your thing. I consider myself still getting used to being on camera, to speaking my own mind, and I'm still trying to find this diamond, or still trying to share this diamond that I know I have to share. Still trying to find what's that stream for me. And watching your journey has inspired me a lot. I wanna share so many things, and there's this part of me that's the perfectionist, trying to make it perfect, or trying to find the perfect moment. I would like to record some meditations that I want to share, and I'm always like, okay, during the day my neighbors are very noisy, so I should try doing it at night. Then at night it's like, okay, I just want to rest. Then you never find the time, or other projects come up, and so you put some projects, you put them in the back burner, and you focus more on other things, and time goes by, but I want to focus more on finding my own thing, without discarding what I've already created, or what I'm already sharing with these conversations, because I know I have a certain ability, or whatever you could call it, to create these conversations, and I'm it's like sometimes it's hard for one to recognize one's own abilities, because sometimes they come so naturally that you don't feel how valuable they might be for others. But I've become more comfortable with recognizing that I am good with this, with having conversations, and from whatever you might say, I'm able to like connect it with something esoteric, and kind of take the conversation somewhere magical and mystical, which is what I think the people that are connecting with my channel are looking for. But I would like to share something more, and I'm still trying to find it. And you've been so helpful with helping me, grow my channel, which is still in its infancy. But every time I look at the thing, I'm at 850, something like that, and for me, it's, wow, I can't believe it. I wish that I could continue growing it, so that this can also become my profession, my career, and reach all those people out there who are looking for this type of content, and who maybe feel very alone, who don't know where to find all of this stuff. But I need to understand more what it is that they're looking for, but especially what it is that I already have to offer, that coincides with what they're looking for, and I need to do some soul searching, or maybe I need to think a little bit less, because I sometimes overthink things. And but yeah, so my point, or I don't know if I even did have a point, but I'm very happy for the growth and the evolution that you've had in this time. It's like, I look 70,000 subscribers. I can't believe those type of numbers. It's like world class, and I'm really happy that sharing all this stuff in the YouTube has helped you, or allowed you to make a living out of this. It's just amazing. I would really also like to not just meditations, but also do some readings of books and esoteric stuff and whatever. But I never find the time, or the coordination in placing in scheduling, let's say, that stuff for myself. But I guess it's going to bloom when it's time.
Yeah, what I would say is that you just keep moving forward, and like how it happened with me is I just kept pushing. I liked making music, and I kept doing that. I liked doing the narration. I kept doing that. Um, and saying that, I was able to combine my music with my narration, and then as well, like, to also include other technical and creative aspects, like learning different software, and, like, trying to do like kind of visuals and animation. So I mean, everything that, I mean, since the start of my channel, I've learned as I've went, and I'm still learning. I'm still like tinkering around with the audio. I'm still messing around with the different uh, video production values and stuff. And it's a nonstop, never-ending learning process. And what I will say is that if your intent is there, and you give it to your subconscious mind to work out, it'll find that part of you will find a way to kind of put in order the world around you a little bit, that will enable you to then pursue those things if you're meant to do them. So if it's really one of your passions to do like readings, like, give it to your subconscious mind to kind of figure out that problem. You always hear about stories about, it could be like a physicist or something that's working on an extremely elaborate and difficult equation, but can't figure out the answer. It's like so difficult, and you contemplate on it for days or weeks, but then you let it go and you forget about it. And then out of nowhere, like soon after, it comes, like literally, out of the ether, it falls in your lap, and you have your answer right there. And that's kind of how as far as like the content on my channel, that's kind of how I've progressed in figuring out what I decide to read, or the kind of music I want to explore creating. Lots of times I think I have these grand ideas, and like I make plans, like I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Those are the things that usually don't happen. It's all the things that I'm not looking for that fall into my lap, that kind of, they're like the breadcrumbs. I'm like, oh, I didn't know about this. So, and with what I do a lot of research, and I do a lot of reading. So I'm exposing myself to, I'm doing a lot of digging around on the internet. I'm learning about a lot of the texts and the books that I read, and about the subjects. And I do hours of work before I even start recording, and looking into like the author, or looking into the book itself, or the subject. And those are the kinds of things that will like lead me on that path. Like, oh, and that's why I'll make a little note or something, and like that'll be the next stepping stone for me. So like, just one thing leads to another. And yeah, all my best laid plans have come to naught. It's all it's everything that I didn't plan that ended up happening, that really proved to be of value. So
Yeah.
that's
I
what
think
I
it's
would. Oh, go
I think
ahead.
it's very, very beautiful to stay open, right? To like make plans, but also have the flexibility to drop them at the I don't know what's the phrase, but to drop them immediately when the intuition nudges you some different direction, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were mentioning earlier, I caught this, the shadow and creativity, and I think it's definitely connected to this. I liked how you were saying, because we have this idea of the shadow on the one hand as being kind of like where all the negative stuff about ourselves is stored, but there's this other side of it, of that's also where all the things we don't want to accept about ourselves are stored, and sometimes we don't want to accept. And recently I was hearing that one of the things that we least want to accept about ourselves is our light, is our ability to shine. You know, we are so scared of being seen, you know, maybe because of fear of rejection, fear of failing. But really, I think even deeper is that this fear of succeeding, you know, of what what's this word, what implications there would be, what challenges would come with being successful, you know, which I'm looking for a word. Okay, so I think in part we are so scared of that, and we are hiding that in our own shadow, and sometimes projecting it to others. You know, I see all the success you've had, and I know that in part I know that I can create my own version of that. But I think, wow, 70,000 followers, I'm like, that's impossible. I'm not gonna get there. But I need to trust in myself. I need to trust that I can get there, and that it's gonna be safe to get there. And I think many times, you know, we're scared, especially in this niche, let's say, that we are in. Sometimes, you know, I think people like ourselves think that notoriety comes with some kind of mystical danger or something like that, you know, because we understand that in our work we are sharing a truth that is deeper than certain mundane truths, and we might feel that sharing some, well, we know by the history books that sharing some of these truths has ended people burning in the stake, or witch hunts or stuff like that. So I guess there is a kind of maybe it's not genetic memory, but a kind of like esoteric memory, or energetic body, or karmic memory, you know, that I guess we are kind of feeling a kind of pause because of, I guess.
Yeah, I think also that, you know, it's I mean, across the board, like with I'd say the quote unquote spiritual or the esoteric or occult subjects out there, that I think it's indicative of how the general population is slowly embracing different aspects of these things. It's like, I feel like I'm blown away about, like, you know, 70,000 subscribers. Like, I'm always hoped, you know, but, you know, it was always like, that's crazy. You know, like when I first got my first 1,000 subscribers, I mean, even I made it might still be on my channel, but when I reached 33 subscribers, I put out a thank you video, you know, that I had 33 people, you know, subscribe to my channel. But overall, I think the success of like my channel and other channels of similar ilk, I think is indicative of what's happening on a widespread basis. But yeah, I mean, well, and historically there was always dangers that came with publicly speaking some of this stuff. You look at Madame Blavatsky. She was not only targeted in general, you know, and kind of people frowned upon what she did and kind of ridiculed her from that public aspect. But you had like some of these secret schools, some of these mystery schools that then also targeted her. I mean, it comes from both sides. It comes from people that are involved in these spiritual aspects and these esoteric teachings and subjects, coming after people that make things public. But I think that's we're in a time now that the floodgates are open, and I think that where we are at in history, there is no other choice but to propagate as much as possible, to spread as much information and knowledge as possible, because as everything slowly becomes digitized, and as everything slowly goes virtual, we have the danger of losing it. You know, books don't last forever. They rot and decay away. Oral traditions have decreased significantly, you know, throughout the last couple hundred years. And the more that we can talk to people like you're doing, I mean, I think you have like 80 some episodes right now. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm coming close to 80. I think you're going to be 76 or so. Yeah.
See, like that's already like, that's amazing in and of itself, that you have almost 80 conversations. And these are the same as, I think, oral traditions, and passing information down orally from one person to the next. Even though they're conversations, there's still there's a receiving going on, and there's a reciprocation. There's aspects of the student and the teacher still there. There's aspects of the master and the initiate, and so that's like really important. And then like some of the things that I do, like as far as reading text, a lot of these things that I read are not necessarily very popular or very well known. Some of the works that I've done are very obscure.
Yeah, very esoteric.
Yeah, well, it's not even like necessarily like, you know, overtly occult or overtly esoteric in its nature, but
it's not entering level stage, or I don't know what the word is. You know, it's some of the stuff is like very symbolic, very much like stuff that in its time people without certain levels of initiation would have not only not had access to those stories, but if they were to read it, it would be like, what is this talking about? And still some of those things, we look at them today and are very obscure in their meaning, but at the same time, I don't know, it's this characteristic of us today, you know. I think there is something connected to reincarnation, that or to karma, or to 101 monkey, whatever, that we get that those things that in the past would have been very obscure, and even though we might not know what it means, something in our souls is in a certain way connected, and kind of receives a little drop of what was meant for us.
Yeah, for sure. You know, reincarnation is one of those things that sometimes I want to believe in it, and sometimes I don't. Usually, I don't consider myself a Gnostic, but I always say I consider myself kind of Gnostic minded. And in that sense, like I want to get off the merry-go-round. Like I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'm able to do enough work this time around that I don't have to come back. I told my wife the other day, like, that I really don't want to come back because I don't want to see how the world evolves because it looks like it's going to be a bunch of shit. So, but if I do, and if it happens, so be it. I just
There's so much in that you just shared. Let me just interject, because you
yeah.
know what? I have, since I was very small, I've had this gnosis or whatever it's called, these knowings and understandings deep from my soul or from within. And one thing about the reincarnation and destiny is that everything ends up being paradoxical, So if you don't want to come back, you end up coming back until you want to come back. And when you want to come back, you might end up deciding, okay, since I can choose to come back, I might not come back. But then, destiny is like, so what I kind of drifted on my thought. What I wanted to say was, when I was small, I used to think, or I had heard about the idea of destiny, and I had heard about the idea of nothing. So I had these two sides of the coin, and I was very small, and I was thinking, but it's neither of those. It's kind of like a combination of the two things. There is destiny, where it's like it's predetermined and there's nothing you can do, but there's also choice. There's also free will. And I was very small and thinking these things that are kind of very mystic minded things for a, I don't know, 6, 7, 8-year-old child to think about. But for me, it was like normal to think that way, And the reincarnation thing, it's like, it doesn't really even matter whether it's true or it isn't true, because in the end, since it's all paradoxical and it's both things at the same time in every area, of the thing, it's like, yeah, there is reincarnation, but there also isn't, or there is, but what do you mean by that? And it's not if it exists, it doesn't necessarily work in a way that we can describe with words. So it's like, it's not even, why even worry about it? But at the same time, yeah, think about it, but always remember that it's not going to be like you imagine it. It's going to be a surprise. It's going to be alien. It's going to be other, And one of the things that I was thinking is, we tend to get this idea of, okay, reincarnation. Yeah, no, I don't want to come back in the future because I don't know where the world is going. But there is no time really. Everything is happening now. For every person, it is now and it is here. So we think, yeah, no, but my soul is, or my Atman, or my something is going to come in this body and whatever in the future in another body. But your quote unquote next reincarnation might perfectly be in the past, in another planet, or in another moment in time, in being a person that has apparently nothing to do with this one that you're living now. It's like there is the best that I've been able to guess, within this paradox of life, is that we're living two lives at the same time. We're living the I'm calling this the third person. The first person experience is this human that we are incarnating today. But then there is the third person experience, which would be our higher self or the Atman. And there is, everything is happening in those two perspectives at the same time. So we have this linear time for the first person experience. You are born, you grow up, you die. But then there is this circular or spiral time or whatever, or formless, shapeless time. That is the perspective of our higher self. Or maybe if you were in that perspective, you could see it for yourself. It would appear to be linear as well. But it would be linear, like, okay, so I'm this soul, I incarnate in 2020, then I die, and I incarnate in 1610, and then I die, and I incarnate in the year 1 million, whatever, and and go jumping around the whole place, which from our lower perspective, it seems like it would be disorienting, but it would be totally normal for whoever exists in that plane of reality, and whoever exists in that plane of reality is more, maybe not more is not the word, but is as much I as I am I, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
one reminds me of, like, if you get a chance, see the movie The Zohar Secret, if you can find it. But just talking about the reincarnation thing, there's some amusing stuff, but it's an incredible movie, I thought. And then some other stuff that kind of sparked some thoughts about the, talking about the paradoxical situations that in our world and in our thought, kind of seem constant. It makes me think of like how you were saying when you're young, that you kind of believe both things, of that, destiny and kind of the nothing. And by holding those two beliefs together, you create what's known as cognitive dissonance. And some people, and many times it's viewed as a negative thing, especially, kind of nowadays, where like people might get confronted with something politically or whatever that they don't agree with, or they're unhappy with, but yet the opposite is true, but yet they know the truth or something, but they don't want to believe it. So there is the belief of it, and there's the not belief of it, but they hold those two ideas together at the same time, which creates a negative cognitive dissonance. And it's a hurdle that they can't get over. But that with certain concepts and certain ideas, especially when it comes to these more esoteric paradoxes, I always take the Ouroboros as an example, the snake eating its tail. It's counterproductive. It's a contradiction, that if the snake were to continue eating itself, where does it end up, and how does it transform? But what I was going to say, just using that as an example, but by holding those two things in balance with each other, in a creative sense, in the creative mind, that cognitive dissonance. And I wrote an essay, or I started writing actually a book kind of based on this, working out I'm trying to develop a system of magic called nostalgiamancy. But when I was trying to figure out what exactly that magic is, or that kind of that energy or power of magic that does what it does, however it comes to be and however we work it, that cognitive dissonance, and being able to create that and hold that, creates this alternate kind of energy within the mind, that I think is actually that magical energy that can be used to either manifest something, or excuse me, or like to will something to happen. So in this book that I'm writing, and I think it's also, I put it in an essay that I wrote on active imagination, and relating to magic in itself, but that Carl Jung had talked about that in the aspect of Christ on the cross, or the cross itself. You have the material plane, which is the horizontal part of the cross, and then you have the vertical plane, the horizontal aspect of the cross, which is the spiritual aspect. And then, so you have that material and you have that spiritual aspect coming together. In the middle is the heart, where Christ is crucified. Right there is the heart, and that's that feeling, that emotion. But by holding those two aspects together, because those things in and of themselves are contradictory, and they're paradoxes. When the spiritual opposed to the material, and you hold those things together, you create that third energy. That's the cognitive dissonance, but that also aligns with that feeling, that emotional energy. I know I'm kind of rambling here, but these are things that swirl around kind of in my head and like in my kind of
and
thought sphere.
Hard concepts to bring down. You're talking about it. So it's perfect. I mean, that's why it's always described with symbols. You mentioned the Ouroboros. It's because we are trying to bring, exactly, we are trying to express that point where the horizontal and the vertical lines intersect. We are trying to, I think maybe another symbol could be, for example, maybe somebody will tell me it's not right, but the Father, the Son, so the Father would be the vertical, the Son would be the material and the horizontal plane, and the Holy Ghost would be that point in between, which is or in my own metaphor, the higher self third person experience and the human self first person, where when you're able to inhabit both, to be aware of both your experiences at the same time, when you're able to experience your two lives at the same time, or the two halves of the world at the same time, there a third thing is born, which is this paradox, which is the higher thing alive in the lower plane, which from the lower perspective is impossible. But when that happens, naturally what happens there is magic, because it's something, it's a miracle. When you're able to balance the two things at the same time, the third thing is necessarily a miracle, and that's when you're able to create from your desires from something small to something giant, from having a roof over your head to manifesting the partner that you dream of, or the health, or I don't know, fire from your hands, or whatever. Who knows
That's
the limits of this.
That's the creative spark right there. That's that snap and that switch that happens. That's the imaginal realm that exists right there. That itself is a liminal space, which you can then use to create or transcend your current mindset. And really, like, I'm a guy that's all about practical things, like, I know I've read, like, like the pyramid texts and stuff like that. For me, and I have enjoyed it, but it's not practical things that, you can just, well, I read the pyramid texts and it was, 10 hours long. And like, now what are you going to do with that? Really, ultimately, what are you going to do with it? And, the only thing I think you really can do is let it inspire you to something else. But like I said, I'm a practical guy. And so I like to be able to use these concepts in real life, in everyday life. And that whole thing of meshing those two opposing aspects together, when you create that imaginal realm, for me, that's the point where you reach in to try to shake the hand of the shadow. That's that portal, or that intersection between two worlds. It's the reconciliation of the divine of the masculine and the feminine, between the above and the below. It's all those things that our world is made of, because our world is made of this dualistic, I don't even know what you'd call it. This Maya, but yet everything has these two aspects to it. And everything can be worked in a way where you can reconcile that into something else. I mean, with alchemy, it's the philosopher's stone, and it's the great work to try and achieve the philosopher's stone. And this right here, this is where the philosopher's stone is. And being an artist and being a creative person, I'm constantly doing that, trying to figure that work out, to do that great work in order to create art. And it's always been my belief that creating art is the one thing that can, it's the one thing that's important for salvation. I think we are given the spark to create, just like we are in the image of God, and this creative force. So that's what we should all be doing, is just creating as much as possible. We're here to create. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit. I got off track from what I was originally trying to communicate, but it's the
best way to communicate.
Yeah, but everything comes together at that central point, and that's that liminal space. That's the imaginal realm. The Sufis view the imaginal realm as the fabric between the material and the spiritual worlds. And we need more people like doing the active imagination thing, like that was Carl Jung's some of his bread and butter there, and his techniques about going into this with intent and intentionally. And something I've learned how to differentiate between that and simple daydreaming, and using the imagination to kind of find that intersecting point on the cross, that intersecting point between the higher and the lower. And I think we need more people actively trying to dig into that and go into that. And I think, excuse me, that's where so many amazing things happen, and that's where we get our best ideas. That's where I think humanity brings out its best. We find the most magical, amazing things there at that point. So, like, I'm just rambling. So
it's not an easy task, to speak the ineffable. we're doing our best. But I was thinking, you mentioned how this is sometimes described as the union of the masculine and the feminine, and isn't Mercury, maybe you're more learned in this. I kind of play by ear, but isn't Mercury sometimes connected with the sacred, what's this called? The sacred hermaphrodite? Isn't sometimes Mercury connected to that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. In alchemy.
And I'm thinking, like, the symbols, for masculine or Mars and Venus and feminine, and the symbol for Mercury is kind of it's not exactly a combination of both, but it's kind of a mixture of them. And here's what we're trying to do. We are trying to communicate those things. We're trying to manifest Mercury on the physical plane, and yeah, it has that magical aspect of transmitting thought, and imagination and the imaginal through the realm, through the medium of, in this case, the air, or even now through this virtual medium of, I don't know what we could say. It's also through the air, I guess, the Wi-Fi or whatever. I think it's just waves traveling through the air, or electromagnetic stuff. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to speak about the ineffable, trying to bring heaven down to earth, and thinking about all of these things that are very difficult to talk about. And we're just two crazy people on the internet rambling about this. You should not pay attention to anything that we say unless it resonates. In that case,
Absolutely.
we're happy that it does. And this has been a very interesting first half. We're going to continue this conversation on the other side. It might be available either on Patreon for supporters, or I might just make it publicly available on YouTube, because recently I've been more and more feeling like the second hours, I just want to share them publicly, because that kind of model of, okay, so keep some stuff private so that it tempts people to support you. But then I get like supporters, and the private videos barely have any views. So I'm learning more and more, okay, the supporters aren't there because of the secret candy that I've hidden in the in the witch's house, but they're actually there for me. They're actually there because they enjoy supporting the work that I do.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm feeling like just sharing all of this stuff publicly, and trusting that people will help make this dream come true for me and for them, because they will be able to support somebody that they enjoy the content that I share. So Matt, just in closing, please go ahead and remind people where they can find your amazing channel, your amazing audiobooks, and your amazing music.
Sure. I've spent, these last several years kind of building my empire, I guess. So I'm like all over the place, but mainly Altrusian Grace Media on YouTube, and altrusiangrace.bandcamp.com for all my audio work. I do have channels on Rumble and on Odyssey, and I even have an older BitChute channel just as backups. I also have a podcast now. It's not actually an official podcast, but it's another backup of all my audio stuff that I'm still working on getting all of my material out there so I can try and catch up. I'm also distributed across Spotify and iTunes and Amazon, and all those different kinds of areas where you can find music and stuff like that. So just do a search for me and you'll figure out, you'll find me somewhere, somehow. Yeah, just because I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you've done a great job in making your stuff more accessible. And you might say it's not a podcast, but I mean, it is. It's not, you're actually, maybe you could say you're groundbreaking, you're doing a kind of podcast that's so different from other podcasts that you yourself don't consider it to be one. But I mean, you submit it to podcast places and it's there. So it's a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I suppose.
It's just got a different format, a very particular thing, because it's your readings, and I guess your music is also available through that, right?
Yeah, I'm working on trying to, just because I have so much material now, it takes a long time to find time to get everything uploaded and kind of in its place where it should be. Like, I still have a bunch of things to upload for the podcast, and I still have a bunch of things to digitally distribute across other platforms, and all that stuff takes time. And then, while at the same time trying to continue to create and make more content. But I will say, in regards to how you were thinking about letting like additional content, keeping it for patrons, or keeping it behind a paywall and stuff. For me personally, I always want everything out there. I don't ever want to keep anything that I make or create, I guess, hidden, or keep it from anybody that might benefit from it. So I put it out there regardless. I never put anything behind a paywall. Yes, I do have like some of my audiobooks or my music costs money, but it never costs you anything to listen to it. It's only if you want to own it in some way and or another. And like through my Patreon and through my YouTube members and my Bandcamp membership, all those things, they don't get anything special. They get early access before I put it out to the public. So that's really the only benefit. And then they get a discount code, if they want to buy things from like my Bandcamp and such, if they want to own it in their own digital collection. But ultimately, I don't, I won't ever put anything behind a paywall that requires anybody to pay to have access to it. So that's just my 2 cents and like how I kind of view the world. And it's my belief that if you put your gifts out there for the world without expecting, it comes back to you. Everything I do out of love and wanting to share. So I guess I've been fortunate enough to reap the rewards of that.
Yeah, very well deserved, because everything that you share is fantastic and an amazing quality. Not just the books, for example, that you're reading, but also the quality of the readings themselves that you're doing. It's top level, and people are going to be amazed if they don't know about you already. I really invite them to go check out. I was just a few minutes ago sharing screen with your YouTube and your Bandcamp. And you can find me on Instagram if you wanted to send a message, to say hi, or you can leave a comment here on YouTube. Remember to like, to subscribe, to share this with your friends, with anybody else that you think might benefit from this. On Instagram, I'm at @atmanrafa. For now, that's it. We will see you on the other side. Thank you. Bye.